Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Call My Chats podcast. This week we're going to be brushing over the main card of the fight night between Ankalaev and Johnny Walker, as well as be discussing the upcoming UFC 297 main card as well. Should be really good. Before we go on to the vote, the man will keep.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I wasn't even going to bring it up. Missed weight by, what was it, 3.5 pounds?
Something like that.
And says it was due to, he caught some sort of bug during training camp, had to take antibiotics and just couldn't lose the weight after that. How much do you buy into that excuse?
So I don't know if it is an excuse. I do feel like a fight like this is a really big fight for Cup.
Yeah.
Really is. And to potentially try and make an excuse like that, whether it is, I don't think it is an excuse at all. I do genuinely think that's how it happened. I think it's a lot more common with these weight misses than it actually may appear. A lot of the time we think unprofessional, however, a lot of these guys are very professional. It's not like he missed it by a massive amount. It's more than you should be missing it by. However, £3 at the end of the day isn't the end of the world ultimately.
No, I think £3 is a lot.
It's a lot, but not in the sense of you're looking at that like, okay, well, he's lying about that.
Yeah.
If they have reasoning behind it, like illness. If it was £7, which has happened, that would be very, very different. But for a fight with this level, what would have such a trajectory in his career, I don't think that is. And it's a shame as well because it was probably one of the best fights on the card.
Yeah, it was the one I was most excited for. Are you surprised that Nicolau didn't take the fight? He was offered the fight and I think 25% Manuel Cape's purse. I mean, for £3.5, you would think you'd take an all day, right?
Potentially so, although there's always reasoning behind it. And in fairness, if he believes that it is that much of a disadvantage, which we don't really know ourselves, we don't know what it's like. Manuel Cape is somebody who hits very hard for weight.
Yeah, true.
He's at when he doesn't miss weight, let alone when he's a bit over. In all complete fairness, I can understand it. You got to look at your longevity in the sport.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we see fighters, you see the smart ones compared to the not so smart ones. You see a guy like Anthony Smith take a fight against Khalil Roundtree on, like a week's notice or something like that. And you see some fighters will just say no to a short notice fight at all times. So, yeah, probably the smarter decision from Nicolau, but really gutted the fight wasn't on the card.
We did get Arlovsky versus Eduardo Cortez Acosta, which was not a bad fight at all, to be fair, really. It was in something which, it's one of these fights which you don't really know what's going to happen. You look at Arlovsky, I think is he turning 44 this week?
Yeah.
And he's one of the most experienced fighters in there against somebody who isn't up-and-comer, although, in fairness, it wasn't a super competitive fight. However, it was still an entertaining one. I enjoyed it.
I mean, I didn't really enjoy the fight, if I'm honest. But I do think it was a competitive fight. I mean, looking here, Arlovsky landed more strikes, had more strike accuracy, more significant strikes. There was no grappling transitions. To be honest, I was really disappointed with Eduardo Acosta. You know, he comes in as known to be a heavy hitter, 11-1 against the aging Arlovsky, and he spends more time taunting a legend like Arlovsky than he actually does, trying to knock his head off. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I really didn't like how he was just taunting Arlovsky while he was actually in a fight. It's not like he was breezing it, is it?
So that is one of the things, when you are fighting against somebody who has been in the UFC for however many years, since the early 2000s, you don't want to be taunting them, especially when it's somebody who you can learn a lot from. Arlovsky is somebody who's very good at the fundamentals. And although, yes, like you said, he hits hard, he wasn't following through with it. He called him like Samba Boy, which is all good and well. But doing that in a fight where you win 29-28, it's not impressive at all, really. Not what you want to be seeing from somebody who is looking to become a champion in the future. He's very young, however, when you're taunting him and when you're being disrespectful about that man, there's someone you can learn from, and there's every possibility that maybe if Arlovsky had a bit more about him, if he was a bit more on it, because with Arlovsky, he didn't look like he's going to knock him out at any point.
No, I mean, he's not that guy anymore, really, is he? He doesn't finish guys, really.
But what he was doing with his shots, the way he's putting it together, the way he's 29-28, I'd say it's a fair score for the fight, because he did probably slightly just edge it over. However, regardless, it's not impressive at all. You don't want to be taunting, you don't want to be patting your bottom, wherever it was doing. It doesn't look great, it doesn't bode well, because if you do that against somebody who maybe has a bit more turn, has a bit more power, and will throw in greater volumes, Arlovsky's accuracy is there, his speed's there, those kicks he was landing of course, yeah, he may be shaking them off, but if that's somebody else throwing his kicks, and you're doing that to them, you're going to have a very, very short duration in the heavyweight division of the UFC.
And I just think it kind of leaves a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouths because, this is a guy who came up through Pride, won the UFC title, was one of the most exciting heavyweights around, so advanced for the time he was in. And, there's a guy taunting him when really you should be, what's the saying? Like, you try and take out a legend, don't you? Because, that's the way you kind of get up. And he wasn't interested in that whatsoever. And that just really is going to annoy a lot of fans. For me, I'll be looking for who he fights next. I hope he gets a hard matchup now because I just hate people disrespecting legends. I really didn't like that.
And that's the thing, like you said, taking out a legend, you should be in a fight like that, showing that you can take out, at one point, probably the greatest in the world.
Yeah, you need to take the torch. Like, they have to pass on the torch at some point, don't they? And that was a moment for him to do that. I mean, Orlovsky, a lot of people would have taken that torch by then already, but, when you're coming up against a guy like that, to really make a statement, you have to go out there and get a finish, and it never really looked close to doing that. Orlovsky was never in any trouble. I think there's even a slight argument you could even edge it to him. I wouldn't have been saying it was a complete robbery if he got the decision either. So, credit to Orlovsky. There's a lot of people saying he should retire. I think you should if he wants to fight, let him fight. And he did. He got finished a couple fights ago, but it's not like that was a good up and comer. He fought 11-1, and he never looked in trouble at any point. He's still a competitive fighter.
That's the thing. He did take some big shots at times, some really big shots. This is somebody who is known for their power. And at no point did he ever look rocked.
No.
There may have been a shot. Well, in fairness, he slipped a lot of his shots. His head movement, he looked very fast and he looked very sharp. And if he wants to continue fighting, he should. Everybody's chin ages at different rates. Everybody's chin has different levels of a time until they have to really retire it. So if he wants to keep fighting, what did upset me about Walter Costa, like you said, just when he was taunting him after throwing his big strikes, especially in the third round at the end of it.
When he was doing like the look away when he missed the punch, he's like looking in the audience for it and stuff like that.
There was one point he had him against the octagon, and he was landing multiple big strikes, and Orlovsky recovered, and then he starts taunting him.
Yeah.
But that's an opportunity which, in the heavyweight division, you should be looking to potentially continue to apply that pressure to get that finish, not taunt them. You don't want to be winning fights like decision in the heavyweight division at all, especially if you're known for being a power puncher.
Yeah, I think. Moving on from that fight, moving on to the next one, me and you both got this one spot on. I'm sure a lot of people who predicted these fights would have. Phil Hawes again, I don't think he looked terrible in the first round. I'd say that the first minute he was looking good. He was pushing Ferreira back, but Ferreira's wrestling, taking Phil Hawes down multiple times, which was super impressive. And he's a serious power puncher, and we got to see that at the end of the round. How impressed were you with Bruno Ferreira?
I feel like Bruno Ferreira, he did what I felt like he was going to do. With Bruno Ferreira, he starts the round off very powerful. He's very explosive. He's very energetic. And he just doesn't stop at all. At every moment, at every opportunity, the moment he was able to get Phil Hawes on the ground, take him down, he was on top of him. And I don't think Phil Hawes looked bad from a technical perspective, but that finish, I don't know whether the chin's there or not.
It's definitely not.
It's hard when it's against someone like Bruno Ferreira, although if we do look at his recent fights, overall very impressive, and it's a really good prospect to look forward to as well.
Yeah, 2 big wins now coming into the UFC, knocking out Gregory Rodriguez in his debut, suffering a bad knockout loss in his next, but a great way to bounce back for this one. Real shame to see Phil Hawes get knocked out again. I think that might be 3 times in a row now, maybe even one more than that. I think it's 3 times though. So it's really hard to see where he goes from here. You're going to have to take some time off after another brutal KO. Where do you see his career playing out from here?
It's a really hard one because I feel like with what he's been put against recently, I think it's like you said, 3 fights finish. He's been put against these big power punchers, these powerful guys. And I personally thought this was a relatively poor matchup. Although saying that, you have to match him up against who you match him up against. It's just how it works. You can't put him against someone who's maybe potentially not a little bit softer, that's not the right term, but a little bit less likely to take your head off.
Yeah.
It's a hard one, really. I think, see how he is after a few more fights, but it's really hard because when in the middleweight division, these fighters, they hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
You got to think when you get to middleweight, almost welterweight even, these guys are hitting really, really hard. This is when you get these big power punches. This is where you get the fighters who are fighting at like heavyweight and middleweight.
Yeah.
That crossover, and that's where the power is. So he does need to potentially maybe work on his defense a bit more. That could be it.
Yeah, definitely that.
And see how his chin is, because although it's not looking great at the moment, it could be a matter, because technically he looks probably better than he has ever, really.
The skills are there for Phil Hawes, but the chin's not. And in this game, that doesn't serve you well. And people calling for Andrei Arlovski to retire. I mean, Phil Hawes is a young, skillful guy, but it's not healthy getting knocked out that many times. And it's not, he won a fight against Darren Wynn, who isn't, let's be real, a great fighter, probably way too small for that weight class. It's a hard one. It's a hard one. Phil Hawes, in my opinion, should take a decent amount of time off.
That's the thing. It could just be a matter of taking time off. It could be a matter of taking time off, maybe not fighting for maybe a year or so.
Yeah.
And then potentially going back out there. Like you said, though, he is relatively young in the MMA terms. It's really awkward because when it does come down to it, like, you need to consistently fight to be in the division. However, you also need to look at it like, how else are you gonna keep not losing fights?
Yeah. Because once that chin's gone, there's only so many guys you can really beat. Like, you can never. It's never a safe bet going with Phil Hawes, because there's some guys who should never be able to beat him who will on some nights, on a lot of these nights. When you're at that point in your career, it's maybe a bit hard to know how much longer you can go on for.
And the thing is, like, although he is relatively young in professional MMA, he is 35 years of age.
Yeah.
He is at an age where a lot of his fighters' chins do start to decline. So maybe he hasn't had the longest run in professional MMA, but maybe it is time for him to retire.
Yeah, probably.
And I think that's horrible, because he is 35. He could potentially be just in his prime.
Yeah. So, but there's other things to worry about in life than MMA. And once you start getting knocked out multiple times, and it's not like they're TKOs, it's brutal KOs. I mean, Tony Ferguson isn't getting KO'd that many times in a row, and these fighters that everyone really worries for. So when you start seeing stuff like this, maybe I wouldn't be surprised if that was his last fight in the UFC, and he might go somewhere else and have a few more fights. I think that is probably the most likely outcome. But, there was some real good performances from Phil Hawes in the UFC. He was a fighter with a lot of potential, still has a lot of potential. It's not like he's a bad fighter, but it's just so hard to bounce back from that. I think we should move on to the next fight. Both of us, I think, picked Ricky Simón last week. Mauro Bautista just, not shocked everyone with the win, but shocked everyone with the level of performance. An absolute war between the two. What a fight this was.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting, because I was thinking to myself, Ricky Simón, we see him a lot of the time. He's very good at level change. He's very good at changing the pressure, changing the tempo. Mauro Bautista just didn't give him a chance.
No.
And you can tell Simón was really shooting for the takedown attempts, and to be fair, he was having success at times with it. I think that Bautista, the level of energy and aggression he showed, and how active he was as well, that cardio from both of them.
Crazy
cardio like that. A gas tank. It was honestly incredible. Bautista is such a dangerous opponent, and overall it was a really exciting fight. But what I liked about it was the heart Ricky Simón showed.
Yeah. Like,
at no point was he just slowing down.
No, he's one tough guy.
And this is the thing, like, Ricky Simón, I think he's just in the top 15. I think he's between like 10 and 15, somewhere around that spacing. And with that bantamweight division, there are a lot of fighters who are looking to bring into that top 15, and there's a lot of hunger there as well. And Bautista definitely showed it. Yeah,
I mean, everything from Bautista, from the wrestling defense, the in the pocket boxing, ripping to the body, coming up high. Even the leg kick defense was insane. Did you see he jumped over a leg kick at one point with his front leg, just sort of bringing in a new way to defend them in MMA maybe. But yeah, this guy's a beast. After his last fight against him on Blackshear, I don't know how convinced I was by that, but to go out there and, to be honest, there was a few people we were with at the night saying the fight was close. I don't think it was close at all. I mean, they didn't think it was close by the end, but I thought Ricky Simón won that very comfortably each round. Not Ricky Simón, sorry, Bautista won that very comfortably each round. Just an insane performance. Will be really interesting to see who he fights next. That's what I'm really excited to see now.
Who do you think it could be, though?
I mean, in bantamweight, Adrian Yanez would he be below him now? I'm not sure, but he's coming off a loss, needs to rebound. There's a lot of good fights at bantamweight.
You got to think how he looked against Ricky Simone. There are lots of fights he can make, lots and lots of fights.
Even, I mean, I know this is a harsh matchup for him, but if Sandhagen's not fighting Umar Nurmagomedov, why not? You know, Umar's not ranked too much higher than that. I know they're really looking to push him up with a bigger fight, but no one wants to fight Umar, apparently. I'm sure Bautista would. He's an animal.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, extremely impressed with him. I think he shocked us both with his performance. Yeah, he's going to be a top contender in the bantamweight. He'll break through this year, probably get into the top 5. Going on to the next fight, Jim Miller, absolute legend, getting another finish, another fight in the UFC. Gabriel Benitez really did struggle with the leg kicks. Jim Miller's he looks even better now than he ever has done before.
It's like he keeps getting better.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal, really, because how old is he?
It's got to be like 40s or something like that.
I'm pretty sure he's been fighting in the UFC longer than some fighters in the UFC have been alive.
Yeah, he's 40 years old.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy, really. I don't think Gabriel Benitez looked awful, to be fair. I thought he looked quite good, and he did do what he could to stay in the fight. It was, actually, I thought it was a very competitive fight.
Yeah, I
really did.
Yeah, I did too.
Very
I enjoyed it.
Sorry. Now go ahead.
I think Jim Miller, you could see slowly starting to break him down there throughout the rounds.
And that's the thing. The way Jim Miller responds, it's interesting because it looks very basic at times.
Yeah.
It looks very basic, but the fundamentals are very good. They're not always necessarily the most technically clean on the feet. On the ground, it's a completely different level.
Yeah.
they're beyond technically clean. However, what he does do, he does cause damage and he does cause that pressure. And like you said, he does just break you down. That finish, what was it?
It was like a face crank.
Yeah. It wasn't under the neck. Because I saw him tap for it, and he wasn't. He shook your hand afterwards, and that, which is very respectful, instantly. So it couldn't have been, stopping him from breathing. So he was able to.
It was more that sort of Khabib Conor sort of, instead of getting it around under the neck, you kind of just get it on top of the chin and just crank the neck to the side, and it feels like your neck's going to snap in half, which isn't pleasant.
But that's the thing. These really good jiu-jitsu guys, they utilize every submission. You look at a lot of fighters who get face cranks and.
It's like a fulcrum choke or something. I think Joe Rogan said once. So that might be something different, but
could be more. Isn't that more under the chin, more towards your skull?
I can't remember.
I'm not too sure. Yeah, but no, Jim Miller has got so many submissions, got so many finishes, and so many wins as well. He holds records of all of them. I'm pretty sure. So.
Yeah, and calling out Matt Brown, who's I think has got the second most knockouts in UFC history. Going up to welterweight to fight him, never been at that weight class before. Actually, I think he might have fought once at that weight class before, but would you rather see the Matt Brown or the Paul Felder fight? Me, personally, I think the Felder fight's more exciting.
I think the most exciting is Brock Lesnar.
Oh, yeah. Personally. Completely forgot about that.
We've got to have Anthony Smith in the corner as well.
Put him on the desk.
Yeah, I mean, the Paul Felder one, the Matt Brown one is cool. I don't know. What do you think the Paul Felder fight would go like, though? Because I want to see a good matchup, because I don't. Although these legends would be fighting, Jim Miller.
Do you think Miller will smoke Felder?
I don't know. Maybe.
Felder was legit though. He was.
Yeah, but
Miller
is he legit now?
I don't know, but Miller was never I mean, at one point he did kind of push that sort of kind of a title run, but Felder was legit, one fight away from a title, and he was a very high level fighter, beating Barboza. Almost beat Dan Hooker, prime Dan Hooker as well. Knocked out Charles Oliveira. So, they both beat Charles Oliveira, to be fair, but Paul Felder was, a real top contender. He has took a lot of time off. His hips are completely done for. That's why he wants to come back to MMA instead of running marathons, which is a strange concept, but fighters think differently, don't they? But, I'd personally go with the Felder fight. Are you kind of leaning more Matt Brown?
I'm thinking more Paul Felder. I think it's just a bit more relevant.
And it's just fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fun and it's friendly as well. And they're both very respectful. And they are both legends as well.
Yeah. And Paul Felder did a post-fight interview with I saw it on the Mac Life. When do they ever get a commentator to do a post-fight interview? So they're clearly kind of looking for that one as well. getting into the main event, the rematch. Well, I don't even want to call it a rematch, to be fair, but Ankalaev, Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker came out way more aggressive this time. I'm not surprised. Probably felt like maybe he could stuff the takedown from the first fight. He wasn't caused loads of troubles when Ankalaev did shoot. Came out throwing all crazy techniques, axe kicks, all spun every at least once a minute, didn't he? Like throwing a spinning back fist. It was I do respect it. He was really looking to go out there and knock him out. That's what he wanted to do, but he was on the receiving end of that.
I mean, all of these spinning kicks would have been even better if he didn't telegraph it.
Yeah.
Rather than spend like 10 seconds, showing you're about to spinning kick and then do it. No, on all seriousness, there's definitely that animosity there, and he did get fouled as well early on in the first round, which is kind of shocking, really, to think that. Like, obviously, a lot of the time it's unintentional, but it does feel very suspect.
He hated that as well, didn't he? He called him out on it right on the spot.
It's did the prayer symbol with his hands and whatnot. I feel like after, because if you look back at the original fight, right, with the illegal knee, it is so blatant. There is no way in which you accidentally do that. That's not a position you'd ever knee in, but he is so clearly just on the ground.
But I also think, why on earth would you knee someone in the face when they're on the ground? Like, what's going to happen. So it's probably just like adrenaline, don't you think?
I don't know, though, because we talk about adrenaline, but Ankalaev is so experienced. And when you look at him fight, he's not always the most exciting to watch. He does do some exciting stuff at times, but he's not always the most. He's just like calm and composed.
Me and you were texting, this is one of my proudest moments. We were texting just before the knockout. I said, what did I say? I think I said, like, oh my God, he's so boring, or something like that. And then straight away afterwards knocks him out. Yeah,
and the thing is, like, with this fight, I don't feel like Johnny Walker necessarily showed the best of his ability. I think
it was kind of the old Johnny Walker that came out.
It looked very gimmicky. It really did look very gimmicky. It looked like he was doing all these flashy things, but not properly fighting. And it's one of these things we see from a lot of fighters who come into the UFC originally. They throw these big flashy kicks and all of this, and these big spinning back fists. Stuff like this are things you want to be throwing quite rarely. Stuff which your opponent isn't used to seeing. Like, you look at like the Michel Pereira, for example. The reason why he wasn't having loads of success was because although he was doing all of these cool moves, it wasn't working, really.
That was fun.
Like, it would work a few times, and then it'll stop working. And him throwing all these spinning kicks and whatnot, you need to just fight the fight. He was throwing some pretty mean leg kicks, but so was Ankalaev.
And Ankalaev checked everyone, and he's still just blasting the shin of Ankalaev. It was hard to watch at times.
I didn't really see him throw any strikes with his arm, though. I didn't really see him throw any punches at all.
No, a lot of spinning back fists and stuff, but
nothing which was working, though.
No.
And you can't really fight like that. And then the second round of finish, great finish.
Yeah, kind of comes from the clinch, lands a clean right hook. The uppercut that followed was one of the most brutal punches you can see, kind of against the fence. Yo Romero, Luke Rockhold style, broke his nose in half. You saw the way he was holding his face afterwards.
It was brutal, and it's a shame because I do feel like Johnny Walker could have fought a lot better.
Yeah.
Like, it did feel like a hype train for Johnny Walker, but I think that he was just trying to put on a show because of the last performance.
And I also think, I'm not sure actually, I don't know what I think. I think there's a false sense of confidence maybe that he had. And, there was a few fights where he kind of lost the thing that did make him Johnny Walker, made all the fans like him at the start. But this fight, he did come close to something. Some of the kicks, especially, kind of question mark kick that almost wrapped around the back of the head, that kind of hit him with the foot on one of the axe kicks. But he didn't even try and establish a jab early in the fight. Nothing like that. Ankalaev, you saw him jab a lot to the body. He was setting his strikes up, being very patient, and he just waits for the perfect moment. Probably deserves a title shot next, and I think probably one of the worst matchups in the whole division for Pereira. Yeah,
that is a really interesting one. Yeah, like you said, though, setting up the jab, he is one of the best fundamentalists, and this is, I don't know how bad a matchup it is for him. I think these are the kind of fighters which Pereira struggles against.
Yeah, it's the worst matchup for Pereira. Ankalaev is
from a technical perspective. It's probably the most technical fighter. Well, it is definitely the most technical fighter.
Even on the feet, definitely. Probably on the feet. Well, maybe Jan Blachowicz. They had a very close fight, but Ankalaev has such a strong ground and pound and wrestling threat as well to Pereira. But he came out, I think yesterday or today, and said, he vows not to wrestle at all against Alex Pereira. He says he believes he'll knock him out. Kind of watching the same thing Jamal Hill's going. I don't think that's very smart. Pereira's had, almost 100 kickboxing fights, 2 division weight, Glory champion. People thought this with Euro Prohaska too, that these guys can't mess with him on the feet. People were mistaken by, he got caught by Adesanya with a massive shot, draining himself to get to 185 in a fight that, he was moments away from finishing himself. No one in this division or any division he has fought in the UFC would have ever seen a level of striking like his. Maybe Adesanya, but Pereira's brutality to it is a whole nother level, and the technical skills there too. So it'll be an interesting fight if it plays out on the feet.
It's all the power and the technique.
Yeah,
he's very much a complete stand-up fighter.
The leg kicks will be so bad. Anyone who stands with him, they're just going to be leg kicked for a little bit, and they'll soon probably turn into a wrestler. He turned Yuri into a wrestler. Ankalaev will be shooting takedowns.
It will be really strange as well to see how the fight plays out, because I feel like Ankalaev is generally pretty good at maintaining that octagon control, and I don't feel like I see Pereira very much circling.
No.
They're both people who like to fight in the middle. They're very similar, although I feel like Pereira is probably a little bit more exciting.
Yeah.
They are very similar. They're both very good at the fundamentals, excellent at it. This would be a really interesting fight. I don't know how this one would go if it was.
Imagine if he didn't wrestle. Would you be picking Pereira if he doesn't shoot a takedown in the fight? I think I'd definitely go Pereira.
Ankalaev's really tough though.
Yeah,
and I know there's that Pereira power, but
it's not only the power. It's the years of being one of the best kickboxers ever.
I just don't know. I have to really think about it because I honestly there would be so many ways to go. I think Pereira would logically make sense with what he's done in Glory and what he has done in the UFC as well.
It's crazy
So far, although he's only been in the UFC for not as long as a lot of these other champions, it would make sense logically to give Pereira with what he's done with his fights.
Yeah. We are going to move on to the next card. Usually we do news at the end, but there is a thing I just remembered that is a decent. I think it's a good segue to get into this conversation. Pereira says he wants Jamal Hill next, and he wants to be the quickest UFC champion turnaround to fight again. So he wants to fight Jamal Hill and then defend his title in the quickest amount of time, which would be about 3 weeks. Imagine if him saying he wants to do that just shows this guy is we better cherish him while he's in the UFC, because you never get a fighter who wants to do stuff like that. Figueiredo holds the record. He submitted Alex Perez and then fought Moreno to a draw a month later. How insane would that be if he did that?
He's just a record breaker, really.
Yeah.
That's all he does, just breaks records. Yeah, I don't know if it would happen.
It's probably not possible, right?
Yeah, I don't know if they'd allow that to happen if they wanted.
I mean, I think they'd allow it if he would have to fight Jamal Hill first, because let's be real, that's a matchup that... I mean, Ankalaev's going to be a horrible fight for Pereira. Even if he wins, he's going to take damage. He's going to probably be wrestled. Jamal Hill's going to stand and bang with him, and that favours Pereira a lot more. So I think there's more likely chance that they'll run that fight next. And then if he gets through it pretty unscathed, he'll have a month turnaround, which just sounds crazy. He'll just go straight back into camp. Probably won't leave it. He'll do like a 10-week camp, maybe even 16-week camp. Which at his age probably wouldn't be good for him, but I want to see it. You can see he's just here to do legendary things. I think he does want that Tom Aspinall fight deep down as well. He just knows it's a bit unattainable right now. But this guy's just a legend, and he's making so many moves in the UFC. Yeah,
no, he has genuinely. He just keeps doing what no one else has done.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So unprecedented events.
Getting into the UFC event next week, got not a massive card, but it's a very good card. Very excited for the main event, especially. Getting on to the first fight, the Englishman Arnold Allen against Movsar Evloev. We've kind of got different views on this one. How do you think the fight plays out?
So it's really interesting. Movsar is just, he walks through everything, and he doesn't seem like he really cares about taking damage. With Arnold is on the feet. His technical ability. If you look at him against like Holloway, for example, to do that against somebody like Max Holloway, a very close fight. I think it was scored like two of the judges may have scored like 4-1 rounds, which was
I didn't score it like that.
No, however, I mean they basically different things to us. Although it's very hard when there's like no grappling involved, like what we score on ground control. So yeah, looking at Arnold on the feet, technically on the feet, he is like excellent. And Mosvar, when it comes out to Ivlev, he kind of just walks through it, and he doesn't really care about damage, and he doesn't really care about the positions he put in. I don't think, like for example, if you look at him in his last fight against Diego Lopez, he get into his guard, and Diego Lopez on the ground. He's not someone you want to be in the guard of.
That fight was crazy.
He's pulling off arm bars. He's getting into these positions, and he just doesn't care. In his eyes, he's so confident that he's looking to cause damage, and he's never been finished either. Yeah,
I mean, he's never lost a fight, but stepping up to fight a level fighter of Arnold Allen, it's easy saying he's confident that these positions aren't going to matter, but when you've got a fighter who's been training with the likes of Faraz Sahabi, who's brought Max Holloway to very close fights, was looking amazing against Calvin Kattar, outboxing Calvin Kattar in the first round until the injury. Obviously, smoked down Hooker. Like Arnold Allen's been at the top level for a long time and shown a great jiu-jitsu game as well, great takedown defense. And I think if Evloev can sort of make Arnold go back, which not many people can, then it's going to be a rough matchup for him. And we talk about the damage, and he doesn't care what damage he goes through. At the end of the day, the fights are scored on damage. So I think Allen's going to land the bigger shots. He is going to get taken down, but I think he's good off his back. He'll get back up, and I think he'll be able to just land the bigger shots in the edge of the round. I think it's going to be a very close fight.
So I don't think it's going to be a matter of him necessarily backing Arnold up, though. Because I don't think Arnold is going to back up.
No.
So I think it's going to be very heavy exchanges. I really do. And although I feel like when we see Arnold, he's very much a fighter who will fight at a bit of range, who will pick his shots a lot better, although he does also throw his flurries whenever he's finished.
Sometimes goes crazy.
You see all this technique, and then you see him try and finish someone. And it's almost like he's just swinging his arms.
Yeah.
But it's clearly doing something. Yeah. I mean, they all add up eventually. Like, he might throw 40 of them first, but they all add up eventually. It's weird because he does definitely hit quite hard. Right?
Yeah.
But you watch him throw his strikes, he has to throw a lot. Maybe a lot of them don't hit. A lot of them must just miss. Like when he's swinging like that, only when he's swinging like that, not when he's actually fighting his fight.
Yeah, he can get in sort of rough situations a lot of the time, can't he?
See, this is what I'm thinking about. Do you not think if him and Ivlev get into a situation like that, who comes out on top?
I mean, Ivlev might win that slight exchange, but I really don't see him getting a finish. He doesn't get many finishes at all. Most of his fights go to the distance. It's not like he's some crazy power puncher. He's a strong wrestler with good striking, but I think Evloev struggles with footwork. Allen's got some of the best footwork in that division. And we talk about Evloev being undefeated. Allen has one loss outside of the UFC, which is probably, he's just young in his career, come up, made some mistakes. And then his only other loss in his whole MMA career is against probably the second best, third best fighter of that whole weight class, one of the best fighters in the world, Max Holloway. So really, if you're looking at the records, 19-2 against 7-0, both similar records. This fight on paper is a very competitive fight. It's the first fight opening the main card. In my opinion, it should be way higher on the main card.
Yeah, definitely, I agree.
This fight could be fight of the night. I could see it being a war where Evloev's getting takedowns, Arnold scrambling to his feet. There might be some submission attempts. They're scrapping it on the feet. I think this is going to be a very good fight. My official prediction, I'm going to go Arnold Allen decision. I think he'll just edge it with the shot selection he has and the power, and I think he'll be able to stay away from the wrestling scramble when he does get taken down. I just see him edging it.
Yeah, no, so it is interesting what you say. So obviously with Arnold Allen, he has fought Max Holloway, he has fought the top of that division. And then we look at Evloev. This is the biggest fight of Evloev's career.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Arnold Allen, he's not a name to sleep on at all. He is one of the best fighters of that division, without a doubt. Yeah. To have a fight like that against Max Holloway, there aren't many fighters who will do that at all. It feels like at times, or it felt like for a very long time, Max Holloway was kind of a fighter, which when he's not the champion, he's just the only person who's not losing.
Yeah, I mean, even is like that now.
Well, yeah, it is. But it's just like he's just that person who doesn't lose, but is number
Yeah, because just because Volk's there.
Yeah, like literally, like there's just no.
Like the Whittaker, obviously Whittaker's lost now, but Whittaker was that guy to Adesanya for a very long time.
With my prediction here, it's a really hard one because although I'm saying Evil, there's also a part of me which just thinks that's not the most logical thing at all. This is his first biggest fight. The only thing which does concern me about it is because of how he's been looking, like the way he's wrestling. There aren't many people who are really just like that style of wrestling, that kind of bulldog wrestling, and I think that's something that Arnold could have an issue with.
I'm so excited to see how he does with the takedowns.
And to be fair, he might stuff them, and there's every possibility he might. And Arnold's got a few subs as well.
Yeah, he does. He's got some nasty guillotines. Yeah, and he does.
He's a very aggressive opponent when it comes down to. So this should be a good one. I'm just gonna go Ivilev for decision. Yeah, Ivilev decision.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be a close one either way, isn't it? Is it the fight you're most excited for on the main card except the main event?
I probably, if I'm honest with you. I think it's going to be a draw.
Yeah, I think this one, again, great matchmaking. The next fight on the card, Chris Curtis against Marc-Andre Barriault. Marc-Andre Barriault's on a decent run, kind of had some ups and downs in his career, but it looks like he's sort of coming round now. Got his first, I think, ranked opponent. This one, both like in the pockets or dirty boxing, will clinch at times too. It could be a really rough sort of bloody fight. What do you think?
I think on the feet this is going to be great. Like you said, with the boxing, this could be fight of the night, potentially with how competitive it is. Both these guys are very, very good. Barry, have you seen his takedown defense? Like against Eric Anders, like he just could not get him down at all. I think this is going to be a really technical fight, and they're both relatively. They feel like their stature is like quite big. You know what I mean? Yeah. Both of them. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of good striking from range because neither of them really tend to like slug out. If you know what I mean?
Chris Curtis loves it. I think both of them tend to slug out.
Yeah, but it's quite clean though. Do you know what I mean? Like it looks quite like technical.
I think Curtis is a very technical brawler. Andrea Barriault is kind of gets a bit more rough with it. In my opinion, he really likes it where you're against the fence. So the fight with Marquez, for example, he loves it when a fight's at a high pace and he can kind of drown people.
I feel like he kind of like fights from range a bit more. Do you know what I mean? Like, or not from range, but he uses his range to get.
Yeah, he does. He likes to. I feel like he starts off because he's got like very good teep kicks and jabs. He has good tools for range fighting, but. I mean, to be fair, he will fight a range until he feels they're starting to break, and that's when he will get aggressive. So, yeah, I do see your point.
Like, not fighting from range, but using that range to get in. Yeah. That makes sense. Because if you look at him, like, he uses that jab and then he enters, and then it's very messy. But Chris Curtis is technical, but his boxing in particular.
Crisp, man.
I think this one could... I don't know, you see, because I'm going to go decision, although there could also very possibly be a finish. I'm going to go Chris Curtis. I just think he's got a bit more experience. I think that he's going to be doing a bit more on the feet. However, overall, it's going to be a war.
Yeah, I agree with the shout of Chris Curtis. I'm actually going to go further around TK. I think he'll find a body shot. I love the way he dips to the body as well. Just the boxing combinations are so clean. Andre Barriault kind of headhunts a lot of times when you're getting these crazy exchanges, and I can just see Chris Curtis dipping down and dropping a left hook to the liver. But we're both very tough guys. We're in for another really good fight here. Getting on to the next one, Neil Magny versus Mike Malott. Mike Malott has looked super impressive in his run in the UFC. In my opinion, he could have been fed better opponents a bit earlier, but he's got kind of getting one against Neil Magny now. Neil Magny kind of on the downward spiral of his career, if that's fair to say. How do you see this one going?
So it's interesting. I feel like the last fight we saw Neil Magny, he definitely saw the weakness of his legs. You know, I think it was the first 20 seconds of the fight. He's slipping over and falling by the second or third round.
That was brutal. How didn't Ingari finish him in that?
Well, that's the thing, and it's very interesting. I think that Mike Malott, they're both similar-ish. Like I know that Neil Magny's on a bit of a down spiral, but if you look at them, they're both very patient, and they're not throwing like loads and loads of strikes at once. You know what I mean? They're both quite calm, and maybe Neil Magny a little bit less when he was younger.
I think Mike's a lot cleaner as well. I think he looks super technical.
Because when you watch him, you kind of think to yourself like, what's he actually doing? Like, he doesn't look very active at all. But when he does land, he lands significantly.
Yeah.
Like everything he throws is very, very calculated, and he will just sub you from anywhere as well.
Yeah,
he can sub you from standing. It is one of these. You get to guys. He's very, very good on the ground. Very, very good on the ground. I think he's going to catch Magny relatively early. Although Magny's not uncomfortable on the ground at all. Magny is a fighter which I feel like will sometimes want to fight on the ground if it's not working on the feet.
Yeah. Gets himself in those situations a bit much, doesn't he?
Well, that's the thing, and he shouldn't really have to resort to that. I think I think he's going to get him early. I'm going to go with a first round sub.
First round.
Yeah, which is quite early, but looking at how he's been doing and looking at Magny's recent performances, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think he's got so many first round finishes.
Yeah,
like it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I think I'm agreeing as well. I'm going second round sub. I can see he's going to take a lot of inspiration from that Ian Gary performance. He's going to smash the leg. He's got very good leg kicks as well. And I can see him dropping Magny on the feet and following him down. I think he'll probably get a rear naked choke or something like that. I'm going to go second round submission for Mike Malott. And obviously the Canadian crowd, they're going to get mad for him when he comes in. I'm excited to see how that is. So you don't really see many of Canadian fighters since GSP, and they've been waiting for another big star. I think that's why the UFC are really trying to push him now. And, this is a guy they can build up.
Yeah, definitely. So I think a lot of it as well is the opponents to get fed as well. I feel like they don't really tend to feed these Canadian fighters.
No.
I think they kind of try and nurture a bit more, like you said. So I suppose when you're looking to produce GSP, but there must be a lot of fighters in Canada.
Yeah, there are better ones. I feel like Charles Jourdain's really putting it together. Obviously, Mike Malott 10-1. There's a couple others that I can't think of off the top of my head. But, Sean Strickland's not too happy to be fighting in Canada, but I'm sure Mike Malott is. So, it's going to be a good homecoming for him.
It's a bit strange being at fighting in Canada. I feel like Sean Strickland versus Dricus.
Yeah. If you're going to pick anywhere for Sean Strickland to fight, I'm sure Canada would be at the bottom of the list, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe close to home, but I suppose it is what it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw an interview of him coming out. I'm going to repeat it. It's not me saying it. It's just what he said. I think he said, "You're making me fight in the least manly country in the world," or something like that. So that's his thoughts on it. Getting on to the co-main event, the women's title fight. Feels like Raquel Pennington's been kind of fighting for this chance at a title for ever since I've been alive. I can remember ever since I've been into the UFC anyway. Raquel Pennington's kind of been this top contender. Finally getting the title fight against Mauro Bueno Silva after testing positive in her last fight in a really good performance. So, me personally, I think this is a good matchup. Bueno Silva has a bit more finishing ability, which already makes me kind of lean towards that in this weight class of women's MMA. Finishing Holly Holm, let's be real, I don't think it was actually a steroid that was in the system, was it?
No, so it was, I think it was methyl diphene or
some
something
sort
like
of
that.
ADHD.
Stimulant, kind of.
I think she said it was ADHD medicine.
Yeah. So same as similar to Ritalin.
Yeah, which is a bit dodgy. I've heard. I don't know. I'm not a pharmacist, but
it is. So it's a banned substance because it has been shown to have performance enhancing effects.
So it buzzes you, doesn't it? Does it buzz
well, no, it's a stimulant. Same as Adderall and stuff like that.
Other stuff.
But so I think what she was saying was with it, I think it's methylphenidate. Yeah, methylphenidate. With it, she was saying that she was taking it when she was competing, and they had very small trace quantities. And at the end of the day, if that is the case, then fair enough. If you're exempt from it, if the UFC do exempt you from it, the organisation do exempt you from it, but she wasn't.
Who was that NFL player? Greg Hardy and his inhaler in the corner. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
The fight got overturned for using his inhaler in the corner.
That's ridiculous. Well, she got a 4.5 month ban for it.
Yeah, which, it's not very long, is it? That's just enough time to agree on the next fight.
No, although in fairness, it's not D-Rod or Walt Harris.
Did D-Rod? I didn't. Oh yeah, D-Rod did, and towards the end, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think it was I can't remember what it was, but that wasn't anabolic steroid. So that was something which would give you a guaranteed.
Yeah, man.
And it was the off-season testing as well.
And Walt Harris started training with John Jones, and then he popped. So coincidence much.
Yeah, she started testing him in the off-season.
But going back to the actual fight, how do you see it playing out? I really want to see Raquel Pennington win this.
Yeah, I don't know, you see, because I feel like Raquel Pennington on the feet, she's the cleaner boxer, the cleaner striker. She does use that distance and that range well. With Mario, though, it is kind of a matter of, with Raquel, I think there's going to be some wrestling at some point or another, right?
Yeah.
Because with Mario, you say she got more finishing ability. On the feet, with her striking, a lot of it are these very heavy strikes.
Yeah.
These like back fists, these really heavy kind of just powerful strikes, which are hard to land. Really. It's not like Raquel Pennington.
Yeah. Easy telegraphed, isn't it?
I also think, though, Mario will just kind of, when in these wrestling exchanges, Mario is very good on the ground.
Yeah.
This is not somebody you want to be on the ground with at all. And it would be interesting to see how Raquel does on the ground against Mario. I don't think very well, if I'm honest.
No, but with someone like Pennington, they've been in MMA so long that it's very rare that someone will just come out and smoke them on the ground. She's grappled against probably some of the most elite male and female fighters in the world in the actual gyms, and probably grappled some of the best female grapplers in the UFC too. So I think, and she's a very physical fighter. Her style has always been pressure boxing, kind of push you against the fence and bully you. Breno Silva does seem more physically imposing, but it'll be really interesting to see how it looks when they just get their hands on each other. Because let's be real, this fight's going to end up in the clinch very fast, probably, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I can see that happen pretty quickly. Well, it's interesting because I think she's had like 4 arm bars, or maybe 5 arm bars in her career.
That's crazy.
And like a knee bar as well. And the moment I see somebody getting a pro win by knee bar, I kind of just think to myself, in the UFC as well, I think to myself, like, this is someone who can sub you from anywhere. Because you don't just see like knee bars. You don't really even just see arm bars that commonly. It's normally, these pretty common neck chokes and guillotines and bulldog chokes and all of that. So I think on the ground, like you said, she's not going to smoke on the ground.
No.
Because Pennington's been in the UFC for however long, she's been fighting for however long. Don't think it will be necessarily super dominant on the ground, but depending on how the judges score it, I think with what's going to happen on the ground, because she's going to be taking Pennington down. In this clinch, she's taking Pennington down. She's going to be doing more on the ground to look more dominant. She's going to be, well, it could be quite scrambly, but for the most part, she's going to be causing damage. Yeah. And I could see a sub. I think I'm going to go either. I'm going to go with Mara 3rd round sub. I think she'll fend her off for long enough. Yeah. I really do, but I think she's going to get it.
Yeah, I'm going to go Mara 4th round sub. I think it's going to be kind of Raquel's boxing is going to cause a lot of problems. Breno Silva gets hit a lot on the feet. She doesn't move her head very well. She struggles with blitzing combinations, and Raquel Pennington's very good at them. So there is every chance Raquel could win this. I think if she does win it, it'll be by decision. But I can see a sub coming later on. I think the takedowns will just get a bit too much. She'll get it down and find a sub later in the fight. Getting on to the main event, this one is bound to be fireworks. We saw the first round of their fight already last year. Now we're on to the second round. For me, there's many different ways this fight plays out. It's a one, in my opinion, which is so hard to predict. I've got where I'm leaning. What are you feeling about this one? So
I think Dricus is going to finish him later on.
Really? Going straight in with it?
I do. I think it's going to come late. I felt like Ankalaev was going to finish during Walk later on, but this is a very different fight. Like, they're not even in the same talking space. I think that with this one here, I think it's going to be a very competitive fight, because you look at Strickland against Adesanya, right?
Yeah.
If you look at the intensity Strickland was fighting at, we've really recently just started seeing Strickland become, because when you first started with Strickland, we first started seeing Strickland come to the UFC, you kind of think to yourself, he's very good at the basics. He's very good at this slow kind of, basic fundamental boxing, and he's got the kicks and he's got all of that. When you look at him against Adesanya recently, and he's a dog.
Yeah.
He was on him, and something about Dricus is that Dricus is also very technical, but he's also a dog. He's also on you. They will leap on each other the moment someone goes to the ground. And I think that there's so much on the line. could potentially see Sean getting finished, although I could also see this being toughed out. I'm going to go third or fourth round Dricus.
Yeah, I see that. I think getting into those later rounds his chances to finish the fight will get less and less as the rounds go on. You see Sean Strickland, he's a shark in the water when he sees people starting to get tired. We saw, especially since he's been knocked out with Pereira, I think he's come on so much since that fight. And it was the same when he lost down at welterweight as well against Primarius when he moved up to middleweight. And he seems to reinvent himself every time. And his boxing defense has got so good. He managed to literally hardly got touched by Israel Adesanya, one of the best kickboxers in the world. And when it comes to the wrestling, we haven't seen loads. We've seen him defend a lot of takedowns at welterweight, some against Hermansson at middleweight. Always had good grappling defense. I think that's where a lot of people are looking at this fight and seeing that's where maybe Dricus will take it. But I think he's been growing up in America with, that's where you get the best wrestlers in the world up until now, maybe, Dagestan and those sorts of countries. But will Dricus be able to bring a level of actual wrestling? His jiu-jitsu is very good as well, Dricus. He's got a lot of wins by submission as well. But will he be able to bring a level of wrestling Sean Strickland hasn't seen before? I don't think so. I think if he's going to win, he'll catch him hard early on the feet. I think that's how Dricus wins. A lot of people think he's going to take him down. But I think Sean Strickland, he's going to take an onslaught early on. First 2 rounds, I think, are going to be rough for him. If he can survive those first 2 rounds, which I'm betting my money that he can, people say you get 30% better once you become champion, and I have so much confidence after beating Adesanya for 5 rounds easily that I think that will lead him into this fight, and he'll defend a lot of the strikes. He might get caught and hurt early, but I think Dricus will be looking at him late on in the fight, 4th, 5th round, completely knackered, and Sean Strickland's still going to be moving like it's the first round, and that's where I see Strickland finish it. So I'm going to go 4th round TKO.
So it's interesting because the last fight Dricus had against Whittaker, although Whittaker didn't look his best, and although it ended relatively quickly,
2 rounds.
2 rounds.
It's not long.
No, not long at all. That was the first fight he had his nose fixed.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And this is what I'm thinking about the cardio.
Yeah.
This is why I think he's gassing out, because to be fighting that intensity, he might still have really bad cardio. He might not have the cardio.
It was obviously bad because after half a round he was breathing out his mouth, wasn't he?
Yeah, and this is the thing. I don't think the cardio is going to be as much of an issue as people are thinking. Because obviously, you look at Randy Miller's career, the cardio is definitely an issue. It is with a lot of fighters. There are loads of fighters who gas out very quickly. However, to be that consistent, because there was just so much energy. He was on Whittaker from the get-go. Don't get me wrong, Whittaker was not fighting as best at all. That was not a prime Whittaker in performance whatsoever. I don't think his cardio is going to be so much of an issue, and I don't think, and obviously we know what Strickland's like. Strickland's golden.
Cardio he's all day long.
Yeah, it's not an issue whatsoever with Strickland. I feel it's hard because it could probably go either way. And I think they're going to be exchanging on the feet, and I think they're going to be charging at each other and just bombarding. And I also think as well, I don't see much covering up happening either.
No,
there will be covering up. There will be covering up, but it will be more like there won't be backing up. I say there will definitely be cover. There will be a bit of covering up in the head movement and all of that, because it has to be.
I think if Dricus starts backing up Strickland, that's when Dricus will take the fight over. Strickland's got to be on the front foot in this fight, and even if he's not backing Dricus up, he's just got to meet him in the middle and just rely on his parrying and his jab. I know it's dangerous. We saw with Pereira, but Dricus is not the striker. Pereira set that up beautifully with the body jab and then brings it up top. But Dricus isn't going to be bringing that level of striking, maybe that level of power. He's an absolute unit at that weight class. Interesting, he has fought at welterweight as well, which is crazy. Both of them fighting at welterweight.
Doesn't look possible.
No, it doesn't, does it? But so what, your official prediction, Dricus?
I'm going to go Dricus. I'm going to go 3rd round. Because I feel 4th round, I think this is going to be an arty war. Yeah. I really do. I could be very wrong though. I think going 4 rounds, it feels like a very long time to go with these two no one getting finished. Although in fairness, Adesanya, survived Strickland.
Strickland doesn't finish people. Let's be real. It's not like it's a big
no, but he could have in that fight.
Yeah.
He definitely could have. So
yeah. we haven't got much news to talk about. We're basically just waiting for big cards now. There's so many big fights announced. So that's all we've got to talk about for today. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Combat Chats podcast. Make sure to share us around, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify. We hope you enjoyed.